Welcome back to the Homestretch podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different to kind of what I've been doing up until this point. It's really interesting when you start a podcast because, especially in the context the things I'm talking about, right? The housewife process is something that I have been through, and I obviously have experience in it because I went through it firsthand. But there's only so much that I can talk about, and I'm not a professional. I'm just someone that is explaining a personal story, and there's actually more to my life than the house and the things that I've been through. So I feel like today I wanted to kind of deep dive a little bit into my journey in life, kind of where I'm at now, things in my past, like my relationships, my career, and just generally how I've got to where I am today. And I think some of the things that I've learned might be quite useful in terms of like relationships and learning a lot about yourself, and my kind of dabble into like spirituality, maybe a few stories, that type of thing. Because I'm not just the person that bought a house and had a really hard time buying a house. I do have more to say. And especially now about my skin. Obviously, I've got a bit of makeup on right now, so you probably can't really tell. But I've struggled with my skin for a long time. So that's something that I really want to dive into as well. And yeah, that's basically it. Just like a bit of a deep dive into my life and with some stories that I've got to share, and just to help you learn a little bit more about me, and also know that I've got more to share than just my house buying process. Because as much as that is great, and as much as I feel like I'm helping people in that area, I do feel like I've got more to say. So I've got my cup of coffee here. I hope you've got one as well, because I love listening to a podcast and having a hot cup of something nearby. And yeah, let's dive straight into today's episode. I think the first area that I wanted to talk through was my career. Now, for context, at this moment in time, I'm self employed, and I have been for about 7 months now, which is crazy to say. And it's been a bit of a weird experience because, don't get me wrong, I loved having a full-time job because you have a steady source of income. You're not like you need one for the house buying process, but it's always great to have because it's a steady form of income. If you're self-employed, it's a little bit more tricky if you're just starting out. But, I have been doing it now for seven months. So I do a few different things actually. It's not just one. I do a mixture of UGC, which stands for user generated content, and I've been doing that for 2 whole years now. So alongside my full-time job before, I was doing UGC, and I was burning myself out. You know, when people say burning the candle at both ends, that was me. That was me. I was up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, working until 8 or 9, working my full-time job, go to the gym at lunch, come back, work UGC after my full-time job, and literally rinse and repeat again and again. To the point where I wasn't really going out, I wasn't really seeing my friends, I wasn't really spending quality time with my boyfriend. And even though that was a busy time for me, I feel like I was meant to do that to get to where I am today. So the fact that I can now do UGC full time is pretty incredible. And there's loads of opportunity when it comes to social media and working with brands, and not having to be an influencer. You can actually just work with them because you can create good content. Now, you do have to obviously have fairly good editing skills. You have to be good at talking to camera, be good at engaging the audience. So there's loads to it. I think people find it like it's one of those things where it's like easy money. It's not. It's hard graft. You're kind of basically not an actor as such, but you're kind of putting on more of a front, if that makes sense. You're not probably being your true authentic self. The second the camera goes on, are you really being true when you're like helping to promote a brand? So yeah, that's kind of what I do mostly. Most of my income comes from UGC. Now, I get quite a lot of inbounds on my email, but I also work on the platform Fiverr, and I probably get about 75% of my income that comes through Fiverr. So it's quite a huge amount. And oh, Coco's come back in if you can hear footsteps. And yeah, so I do kind of try to mix my UGC work with brands off of Fiverr and also on Fiverr. But Fiverr is a great platform. I think for any self-employed person that has an online business, use online service really. Using Fiverr to advantage is great. I loved it and still do. So that's kind of what I do mostly. I also have other things like I'm a wedding content creator with my sister and our best friend. So we've been doing that for a year now. And the first year was really tough. I feel like we had to kind of build up a portfolio. We did a lot of free weddings, and we're now finally starting to get quite a lot of inquiries more often, and also got loads of weddings booked for next year. So that's really great. There's also really a lot of weddings in May. So I don't know if that's like a normal thing or not, but we've got quite a lot of weddings for next May, which is really exciting. And I feel like when it comes to wedding content creation, it kind of blends in what I do already for work, like filming content, making a video, and just being a good people person. Like it kind of blends into one. So yes, that's kind of what I do mostly. And then there's other things on the sidelines, like in the online space. I feel like your own socials and your personal brand is quite important too. So that in itself is a full-time job. I don't know if you yourself work in social media or online or marketing. Doing your own socials is really hard to keep up with. I really try my best on TikTok. My hardest one that I'm really struggling to stick to at the moment is Instagram. I feel like with Instagram, it's just, even though you don't post as much, it's just a harder platform to work with. I don't know. You have to edit your videos and post them on there. And I know you can repurpose stuff. And I used to do that a lot, but I wasn't really seeing much traction and much reasoning as to why I should carry on. So I just haven't really got back into it. So I do have a UGC Instagram for my UGC work, and I'm trying to slowly integrate that into more of a personal brand account where it's a bit more of my life, a bit more into what I'm doing. And I do have a separate Instagram, which is my personal Instagram that I've had since I was like 15 or something. But that's not anything to do with my work. That's like my friends and people that I'm closest to on there. I kind of want to go through it and get rid of people that I don't really speak to anymore, or people that I don't really want to see my stuff. Because, I just think as you get older, you kind of like to keep things a bit more separate. I don't know. But then saying that, I literally film my journeys about things online. So that doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, I don't know. I think my job and my line of work I absolutely love. I don't really know where I see it in the future, to be honest. I think with the podcast stuff, I was so intrigued to like how to do it, set it up, do it on my own, like actually figure things out. And I was ruminating with the idea for so long. And I bought not even too much fancy equipment, really, just my mic, which is from Rode. This is such a good mic, especially for podcasting, that like the audio is just so much crisper. When I compare it to a normal phone or my normal camera that you're on right now, it sounds so different. It's actually crazy. So I thought to myself, if I am going to do a podcast, I need to make sure that the audio is crisp. I need to make sure that it's going to be a nice thing for people to listen to. Because if the audio is bad on a podcast, no one's going to listen to it. I'm sorry. And I feel like as well, it's taught me a lot of talking to camera more. And when it comes to podcasts and especially YouTube as well, to be honest, it's longer forms of video, right? And in the past, I've also done TikToks, which like the longest video is probably 5 minutes. Whereas on here, you have to really like know how to talk to camera for a long time. And that's fine with me because I feel like I can yap and chat for ages, whether or not people like it or want to listen to me. But I enjoy doing it. So I just thought, why not? I think it was like episode 10. And I was like, do I want to carry on doing this or not? The editing for a video takes such a long time. I gave myself a whole year. I was like, I'll do this for one whole year and gonna take some accountability and actually stick by it. And I've done it so far. And I think we're now on episode 17, I think. So that's 17 weeks worth of consistency, of never missing a day of posting on a Monday. There has been a few times where it's been very close for it being missed. And that's stress in itself. So like, I never want to do that. I'm just going to kind of see where it takes me. And like I said, I'm going to hold it off for a year because I do really enjoy it and then just see what happens after that. But yeah, that is generally what I'm doing in terms of like my career aspects. Another thing that I will just add into that, being self-employed, it comes with pros and cons, right? The pros for me is the flexibility. The flexibility to be like, I'm going to start work at 6 o'clock in the morning and then I'm going to go to the gym for 9. I'm going to go do yoga. I'm going to go do a class and then I'm going to come back, have lunch, have a shower, take Coco for a walk, and then carry on doing work to however long that I want. And that for me is like something that I've dreamed of. And I've only now kind of realized how much that means to me and how much like not having to ask someone to nip out or just having a manager because I quite like my own organization skills, if that makes sense. That's not to say that I didn't like working in my previous jobs, I did, but the flexibility that self employed work gives is like top tier. And for me, that's freedom of my time. That's not someone saying you need to come into the office at 9 every single Tuesday or something. I get to choose. It's my choice. And that for me, above everything else, it absolutely takes over the cons of potential self employed work. And it was a risk. It was a huge risk actually handing in my notice and being like, right, I'm going full time self employed. And it's been an eye opener. Obviously, time's gone really quick for me, but I feel like this was where I'm meant to be. And leaving my previous job was the right thing to do. And by the end of it, to be honest, I felt like I was just letting the team down and bringing the team down because in my mind, I knew I wanted to go self employed. So I loved that job. And so basically, the job before was in a charity that was very close to my heart. And I was in the fundraising department. So I loved that charity because it meant a lot to me. I loved the mission, I loved what they did, and I loved my team as well. And I just think working any kind of organization that has so many different teams, so many moving parts, it was just a lot for me. I've never worked before that in anything or any team larger than 5 people. So going from that to working in a charity that had over 200 employees, it was really intense. And there was a lot of politics sometimes and just, I don't know, it's not for me. It's really not for me. And I work better either on my own or in a really small team of people. I feel like I vibe off that more. And maybe it's because I'm a little bit of an introvert, but I'm a little bit extroverted as well. Like I love hanging around with my friends socially, but in bigger settings, like having to go in the office, it really drained my energy and it made me resent my role a little bit because I felt like I didn't have a choice. So, but I get that some people thrive in an office, but for me, it's just not for me. And I thrived more at home, being able to just put the dishwasher on and then get back to my office. It just felt more, I felt more productive in the day, if that kind of makes sense. And I just don't really like forced social events, like having to go to team away days that no one really wants to go to, but they kind of have to do it and tick it off the list. It's just not for me. So, as much as I loved the people that I worked with and I loved my role and I loved like the mission of the charity, it just was not for me. But I wish everyone the best there because I really did enjoy my time there. I think I was there for about 2 years. And it's a charity that means so much to me that in the future I will want to give back to that charity because I know the good work that they do and I know how much hard work they put into things and campaigns and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that experience was really great for me. It definitely made me know exactly what I do and don't want from life, if that kind of makes sense. So a little bit of history in terms of before that full-time job. I have done a few things. Most of my work has been in social work. So I was a full-time support worker in a hostel, and that was working with vulnerable adults from 18 to 65, I think it was. And that was a really tough job. I was in and out of that job for probably 5 or 6 years. And I think I did it full time for maybe 4 years, but that was my like first proper job when I came out of uni. You know, when like you come out of uni and you just think you're going to get a job straight away and no one takes you on. It's, well, I've just got a psychology degree. Why doesn't anyone want me to be an assistant psychologist? Because that's where you start from, right? And it's just kind of like it was a little bit frustrating, but I'm kind of glad that I did have that job because it taught me a lot of social skills, like people skills with people that are difficult, and also how to handle really stressful situations. So there was quite a few bad experiences that happened there, and it really teaches you to be so calm, and you are the sort of main, what do you call it? Like, you're the person that people go to for support. You're the person that people go to for advice. You're basically an unpaid counselor when you're a support worker. And I really don't think they get paid enough for what they do and what I used to do. I feel like there's really a lack of funding in this country for people within social care and even care homes and things like that. I just think the pay is so bad, and it should be higher because you kind of put yourself in a bit of danger. You're around people that are a bit high risk. You're trying to support them in every way you can. You're talking to like mental health services often. This was obviously quite a while ago. I haven't worked there since I was about 25. I did love the job. I loved that we were a small team. I loved that every day was so different, and I love that. For me, in a career, I can't do the same thing every day. It drives me crazy. I need something different. The samey stuff in a kind of office related job every single day does not vibe with me at all. I need a bit of action. I need like something like different because it keeps my brain ticking. Like I would just get so bored. And maybe that's what happened in my old job. Possibly, I don't know. I think you do tend to do the same thing often when it comes to jobs like that, and it's just not for me. And that's one thing that I love about being self-employed now. I work with different brands, I work with different products, I work with different like service-based products and things like that. And weddings, I love going to people's weddings and seeing them on the best day of their life, and being able to create a video that they look at the next day is something so special. It makes me emotional making the videos because you're spending this time from like a different perspective of someone's day. So when you're collating things together, it's so magical to see it come together, and it just makes your heart really, really warm. And then I went into a little bit of kind of like working with kids that had behavioural problems and stuff. So I worked in a children's home for 7 months. I didn't last very long. It was probably the hardest job that I've ever had to do. You have to be there like at 110% energy often, and it's a very heightened environment, and it was really tough. The long hours, the long shifts, not getting paid enough in that kind of role. It just wasn't worth my mental strain. I was coming back from work crying. I was just depleted. My energy was just zapped. And handing in my notice for that was like the best day of my life. I really wish that I could have been the perfect person for that role. And I really thought that I was going to enjoy it. But sometimes it takes just trying things out to find out that it's not really for you. So I'm glad that I did do that and got experience with that. And again, just experience with patience and just trying to be understanding and trying to have fun at the same time as well, like going out on trips and things. And yeah, it was really tough and I wouldn't do it again. But yeah, and then I did a few other smaller pieces of work because I was kind of like, I don't really want to go back into full-time work unless I know fully that I'm going to love it and it means a lot to me. And that my first full-time job after that was actually when I worked for that charity, which was weird. But in the time in between, I was kind of doing different bits here and there. I went back to the support worker role. So I was doing sort of ad hoc work here and there for them when they were short-staffed. That was fine because I did really enjoy that role. It was just the pay just wasn't that great, and there wasn't really much progression in terms of pay and moving up and things like that. So I kind of went back to there a little bit, and then I did some ad hoc work with a child, like not a one-on-one, but it was like support going to school, coming from school, and then support in the home with the family and things like that for behavioural issues and stuff. That kind of wasn't in a children's home. It was more of their actual home with their family. But that again was really, really hard. And again, you need 110% energy when it comes to stuff like that. And for me, I just couldn't do it. So I think I was doing that on and off those different kind of jobs for a year. And then that's when I eventually went into the full-time job. at the charity. So, yeah, I've done a few weird things here and there when it comes to my career. And I did psychology at university, so I feel like I always wanted to work with people and around people. So I think that's why the support worker role and then the work in a children's home did quite well for me. I learned a lot of skills and it really taught me a lot of resilience in terms of what you can put up with and stuff and what mentally it takes for me to get to my point. I'm bringing this home with me now and I can't do it to myself. So yeah, I'm kind of glad that all happened. But all in all, would I ever go back to full time work again? If I had to, I would. But obviously, if I had the choice, which I do, which I'm very fortunate, very lucky to, I wouldn't. So I do think for me, the flexibility on my time outweighs the security in knowing how much you're going to be getting every month. And I've been doing it for what, 7 months now, and I've been fine. So for me, it's just not worth it. And I love my life and being able to do what I want when I want. The only thing with that, though, is that you do have to be quite disciplined. You have to be quite motivated. You have to be quite driven and passionate about what you do because if not, you'll find you might start getting a bit lazy. You might not be making enough money. And yeah, you have to persevere and kind of work hard, like a lot. And you have only got yourself to blame if you're not making enough money that month because you might have not done enough to make that money. So, yeah, there is pros and cons to both. I absolutely prefer and love what I do now, which I'm very happy and very grateful for. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a deep dive into my past career, current career. And in terms of future, I have big dreams. I am a big dreamer, and I feel like the things that I want to do in life and the dreams that I have will happen at some point, but they're going to need a lot of money to make happen. So I feel like those are things that I want to keep to myself. And at some point in the future, when I am able to do those things, I will. I feel like I do have quite an entrepreneurial mindset in a sense of I want multiple successful businesses, not really sure how, what they'll be, but I feel like my mind is in the right place and my direction is going in the right way. And it's just about fitting those pieces of the puzzle together and just being a successful person, to be honest. I literally want to be making pretty high sums of money every single month in profit. And I can see myself doing that. I feel like I do have the drive, I do have the oomph to do it because you really do need that. It's not for the weak. Being self employed is not for the weak. I feel like I'm going to split these up into different sections because I can obviously talk for England. And if I do deep dive into every single part that I want to go into, like relationships, my skin, and things like that, then I am going to be here all day and time will fly and I will not know what to do. So I feel like what I'm going to do is I'm going to split these into sections. So this one will kind of be about career and things like that, whereas my other ones will be separated in other podcast episodes because yeah, like I said, we will be here for hours. And while I'm talking, I actually can't believe how quickly time passes. And they do say like time passes when you're having fun, right? I'm definitely having fun. And I definitely do love giving a bit more depth into me, into myself as a person, and that I'm not just a person that went through a really awful and long experience when it comes to the house buying process. And that's something as well that I will go into as well because I can talk all about the logistics and the logical side of things in terms of how things are done, what things are, and stuff like that. But I've never really sat and kind of chatted like this of our house buying process, how I felt, how like about me. And I feel like that might resonate with people a little bit more instead of just being told what things are and how things are done. So I feel like the next few episodes are going to be a little bit more like this, a bit more chatty, a bit more like bullet points of what I'm talking about. I'm literally running off my own head here and just whatever comes to mind, I'm just going to speak about. And yeah, hopefully you're going to be learning something today. Maybe you're just learning something about me. But yeah, that's basically a kind of deep dive into my career and kind of what I've done in the past, what I'm doing right now, and kind of where I see myself in the future, even though I didn't go too much into that. But one day I might do a whole episode on what my future career looks like and see if it comes true, because I've always had a feeling that it is going to come true. But yeah, if you've got some interesting sort of career stories, or you kind of relate to what I've spoken about today, whether that's been in the social kind of work area, or worked in a hostel, or worked as a support worker, because they're really tough jobs and I know a lot of people do them, but it is a struggle. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that bit of a different style of episode today. And yeah, I am going to stop talking now because I will be here all day. Next week's episode is going to be all about relationships, and I feel like I have a lot of things to say about this area. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too much detail about people that have done me wrong and whatnot, but I do think I have a lot of experiences to share that might help you if you're going through relationship issues, or maybe low self-worth, or just feeling like you're going to be alone forever. And I'm here to prove that that is not the case, that you're quote unquote perfect person. No one's perfect, but the person for you will come into your life when your energy is ready for it. I'm not going to dive too deep into this because I will go off into a tangent. But if you're not on the right kind of wavelength and you've got really low self-worth, and you're not confident and you just feel a bit meh, then you're not going to attract your partner. You need to kind of be not even healed entirely, but you need to be healed within yourself to actually be able to attract someone that's going to match you and match your energy, because you'll keep attracting the same person over and over again. And that's exactly what happened to me. So it got better a little bit each time, but in general, similar traits. And it's when you actually hold your boundaries and say, no, I'm not going to tolerate someone treating me like this anymore, is when you actually attract someone that will treat you so well. Because Nathan is honestly the I know perfect is a big word, but he is perfect in my eyes, and he has taught me so much, and he's just so different to all my exes, and I just absolutely adore him. So yeah, next week's episode will be all about relationships. Obviously, I'm no relationship expert. However, I have been through a lot of experiences that you might want to watch and listen to, because you might learn a thing or two, maybe. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy that next week. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.